All right, if everyone can make their way back downstairs into your seats, we will get started with our next presentation in just a few minutes. Before we do, I just wanted to direct your attention to the info table here. If you are in the building, we have Michael Christian here from the Statewide Independence Living Council, and he has a survey here for participants today to fill out. Michael, do you want to say a few words?
Hello, everybody. I'm the Executive Director of the Statewide Independent Living Council, and we're seeking feedback from individuals, family members, and caregivers as we develop our next state plan for independent living. And just to give people an idea of some of the goals that we currently have in our state plan, we work on issues of transportation, housing, employment, assistive technology, healthcare, and that includes personal care services and waiver services, especially pushing for flexible and participant-directed service options. And so we'd really love to hear from you. And if you can fill out one of these surveys, you can just bring it back to me here at the table, and be happy to hear your thoughts on priorities. And it isn't just for our state plan, it also helps educate our advocacy efforts every year when we're going to Juneau and advocating for changes in policy and change. Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Kim Chapney. She is going to be hosting the Working on the Workforce and Roundtable discussion. Kim Chapney is the Executive Director of Alaska Association on Developmental Disabilities, a statewide nonprofit with over 80 members. AADD's members are organizations and care coordinators that provide community-based services to children and adults with developmental disabilities, primarily funded through the Medicaid waivers. You can learn more about Kim Chapney and her work through the agenda. And without further ado, we bring you the workforce discussion.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. I'm gonna guess yes. I wish I was in the room with you all. It is hard to be providing a presentation from my office virtually like this, but
Hold on one second, Kim. I'm working on the volume here in the building.
oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, try again.
Testing, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is that better?
One moment, Kim, we can't hear you in the live audience.
Okay.
Try again.
Testing,
Can you
testing.
test, Kim?
Yeah, testing. This is Kim. This is Kim.
One more time.
This is Kim. Good afternoon. This is Kim. Testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Hello, hello. This is a test.
Hey, Kim, we could hear you on our end.
I know it's in the building.
On
It's
the
in the
Zoom
room. Yeah, I could do the Zoom, but then no one in the big room can hear me, I don't think.
Okay, you're welcome to go.
Okay, people can hear me? We're good? I'll assume it's a yes. All right, good afternoon, everyone. As I was shared, my name is Kim Champney. I'm the director of the Alaska Association on Developmental Disabilities. I wish I was in the room with you so much, but it's good to be able to join you this way. And I am providing kind of a foundation for the afternoon discussion. My colleague, Karen Brunello, who's in the room, is actually going to be facilitating the roundtable discussion on workforce. And I think I know the goal is to really have an engaged dialogue around workforce. And so my job is going to be to provide an overview of the work that's being done on the workforce. Some of this will be very familiar to some of you, and some of it might be new. And I think it's important as people who receive services, as family members, partners and providers and advocates, all of us are advocates, that we are aware of the work that's going on. So I'm guessing you can see my slides. So I will get started, and I'm going to state the obvious. I don't think you can live in the world today and not know there are not enough workers. And if you're someone who either receives services from the disability system or provides it, you know this every day, day in, day out. And the news is not good. I was at the largest Medicaid conference in the country last month, and this was one of the statistics people kept talking about, that we will need over 1 million new workers by 2030 if the current trends continue. And those are the trends around older people needing services and people with disabilities needing services in the community. And so really 2030 is just a few years away. And I think it's going to take, this is if we continue in our current track. And what I will say to you, and hopefully you'll kind of walk away from this presentation thinking about, is we need to think differently about workforce. And so I'm going to share some of the things that are going on, and keep that in mind. And then when Karen starts talking with the panelists, it might also maybe stir up ideas for you too. So there are people working on the workforce. I was just this past weekend, I was out in the community. My home is in Juneau. I'm actually, if you can't see me, my background is the Mendenhall Glacier in the summer when the fireweed is blooming. But I was in Juneau, and I ran into a parent that I know who has actually, her daughter's in middle age now, very complex needs. And I was telling her what I was doing these days. And she said, do you know there's a workforce problem? We don't have enough staff. And I said, I feel like that is all I ever think about and what I wake up thinking about every day. Nationally, when I went to several national meetings this summer, and that is the agenda, is what are we going to do about workforce? And so here are some of the things that are going on and how they kind of fit into how we're going to solve this issue. One of the things is there is now a national certification program for direct support professionals. Now, I should give a little context. I come from the developmental disability community. That's been mostly my experience. So when I say direct support professional, and this certification is very directed at services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But I will say that people who have age-related disabilities and need supports, it's intermingled because people will need, it's a similar type of workforce. And so the more we can either work on either system of care and invest in either system of care, it's going to strengthen the availability of services across the board. And so this certification that I'm referencing is through the National Alliance of Direct Support Professionals. And you might say, and some people say, really, why are we spending so much money on this? Why are we spending time on this when we just need to get workers out there working? Does this make it more complicated? But what I will say, I've had the last 5 years an opportunity to spend a lot of time talking to direct support professionals. And I'm going to talk about the Alaska Alliance of DSPs in a minute. And I know Terry Cunningham is on the roundtable today. DSPs, people who have been in this field for any length of time, many of them have identified, I want to be recognized. I want a career path. I want people to see the expertise I have built up over time. Because for too long in the system, what we would do is say, oh, I'm going to throw training at you. I'm going to throw this training at you and that training at you with the best intentions of building skills. But then DSPs leave that training, and after years and years of training, they have nothing to show, nothing that recognizes they have achieved this level of excellence. And there's compensation isn't always tied to excellence. Compensation is often tied to desperation these days, hiring bonuses, please come work, difficult shifts, instead of recognizing highly skilled people. And so the certification is really a long-term commitment to recognizing that DSPs acquire a level of professionalism similar to teachers or therapists or social workers, that they have that level of skill. Another national effort that you may or may not have heard a lot about is the Standard Occupational Code. And again, how does this relate to solving our workforce crisis? Well, the Department of Labor has a long list of occupations they formally recognize, and they don't have one for direct support professional. They have an occupational code for home health aide. They have codes for other healthcare workers, but nothing that says a DSP, a direct support professional working with people with developmental disabilities, typically get this wage, and there's this many that work in these states, and these are the typical skills and qualifications they have. And so there's been a multi-year effort to get a SOC code for DSPs. Why this is important relates to the next thing on my list, rates. Many states use Department of Labor data to determine wages. What's the prevailing wage for a certain occupation? And if a DSP wage, if there's not a clear definition of what a DSP does and the kind of skills a DSP needs to have, then it could lead to wages that don't reflect the level of skills and abilities of that occupation. And so the third national effort that has been going on is around rates and Medicaid reimbursement. And so there are Medicaid, as you all know, is a really, really big budget item nationally and in Alaska. And it's difficult to determine a rate that is going to, it's a difficult thing to communicate. Sorry, getting caught up on my words, because you can't just pass along. You can't get money from the government. An employer or an agency can't be paid for a service and pass that rate right on to the direct support staff person, because there's a lot that goes into making sure you can provide a Medicaid service. And so rates have a lot of stuff built into them, and it can really vary depending on what part of the country you live in, what part of the state you live in, what kind of services you're providing. And so at the national level, there's been a lot of talk about how are we going to make sure that workers get the money that they deserve. And there's right now an access rule that the Center for Medicaid Services has proposed. And in that access rule, it talks about, the CMS is proposing that 80% of any Medicaid rate should go to the direct support professional. And in the meetings I'm in with providers, they say, of course, we want to maximize what is going to the direct support professional. And if you have a healthy rate based on the actual cost of providing services, that ratio works. But unfortunately, our services have been so underfunded for so long that 80-20 ratio doesn't work unless we invest a lot more in our services. So rates, lots of discussion. And then technology. And I'm going to talk a lot more about technology in a few minutes, but there's this demographic, and I decided not to go too deeply into the statistics today, but just globally, very generally, you had the baby boomers, and there was a big population burst after World War II. And then since then, there has been not another baby boom, right? And so in addition to some of the things that have happened during the pandemic, where people have really reflected and are making different choices around work, we were not going to have as many workers anyway as we have in the past. And we have the silver tsunami. I think I heard Nona talking about it this morning at the summit, you know, this aging population that's going to need more services. We won't have enough humans. We are going to have to use technology. And so that is a lot of discussion, both at the national and state level. So those are what I feel like are the highlights from the national level. Now I want to get into more detail about Alaska's work. So, like I said, there's a national certification program that is now available, and Alaska has embraced that opportunity. And I do want to credit a number of people, number of entities. First, the Alaska Alliance of Direct Support Professionals, which is a group of DSPs that have been meeting, like I said, for about 5 years. They reached out to the National Alliance of DSPs and connected them with SDS leadership and said, you know, we really want this. We think this is the right thing so that it's not, we don't continue to go to training just because we need more training, but it actually leads somewhere. And then I want to credit the state of Alaska, Senior Disability Services, and the Alaska Training Cooperative for coming together in a partnership and using some funding available because of the public health emergency to say, we're going to try this out in Alaska. And one of the things they have done with that money is the Alaska Training Cooperative is becoming NADSP accredited, which means that the courses that they identify through NADSP that Alaskans take will go towards the national certification. And that's been a heavy lift. But one of the things, and I'm on the steering committee for that work, and one of the things that was an aha moment for me, and I have been working in this field almost 30 years now, lots of training, lots of curriculum development. But one of the things that struck me is as soon as you create a list of classes, a list of courses that says, this is the path to becoming certified, you're defining the profession. You're saying, this is what it looks like to be a DSP. This is the training that, that leads to becoming a qualified DSP. And it was just really an aha moment because we haven't had that clear of a definition until now. It also creates a career ladder. There's 3 levels of certification. And so it really sets up a way of saying, okay, I'm newer in this field. I'm more of an apprentice level. So I'm a DSP1, and then you can work up to DSP3 and be recognized as I'm a highly qualified DSP. So that has been an important, again, long-term investment in creating a profession. So then we can reach out to high school students, middle school students, and say, hey, look at this career path that you could choose. You enjoy, you know, working, being part of the Partners Club or whatever, you know, Special Olympics, unified sports. Maybe this is a profession that you would like to seek out. And so again, it's a long-term commitment there. I mentioned the Alaska Alliance of Direct Support Professionals, and I think this is an important piece to solving our workforce problems, our workforce issues. Their goal, their mission is to be a united voice of DSPs, and they have really been informing the system's work. I'm not sure that we would have a pilot for the DSP certification today if it wasn't for the AADSP group. They're really sharing their lived experiences as DSPs and what really would make a difference if we could address it. And they also have been a powerful advocacy voice. We were able to bring the AADSP leadership team to Juneau last legislative session, and they met with legislators, talked about the work that they do and how much they love it, and then talked about how much they were making, and some of them working 2 jobs and many, many hours. And that really did, I feel like, make a difference. So that's been great. They're hosting an event next week where we have 49 DSPs from around the state of Alaska coming together with the AADSP leadership, and they're going to talk about a conference. They all went to a national conference in August, thanks to the Mental Health Trust. And then this summit next week, funded by the Alaskans Living Well grant, is going to bring them together with their peers to talk about this work. You know, I think if you're a person who's been called to do this work and it's been getting harder and harder, and you start to feel that burnout, coming together with other other coworkers and peers who are doing the same kind of work and talking about how to make it better might keep you in the business, might keep you in the field. And so I think that's such an important investment. I also want to, when I think about our workforce solutions, I think about peer power. And I also appreciate that it was great to hear Michael Christian and talking about the independent living movement, because we won't be able to meet the needs of people who need services if we continue with the same trend that we have now today. And I think one of the things that's a piece of that is helping people to be as independent as they possibly can be. So if a person with a disability is able to learn skills or live in a setting that maybe technology, maybe roommates, whatever that looks like, that helps them be less reliant on paid staff, that is going to free up that paid staff to help somebody else. And so peer power has been growing its capacity and elevating the voices of people with developmental disabilities and really talking about that, how to live the life they want to live and be as independent as they can. And also informing systems work and joining us in advocacy. So I think that creating the expectation that we need to look at how can people be as least reliant on paid support as they possibly can be is going to be very important. Rate reform, I talked about rates. So the state of Alaska has committed $5 million to invest in Medicaid rate reform. AADD and partners are going to be talking about how to create a rate that really is based on a living wage for direct support professionals and that pays for quality supports and services. A part of rate reform is also implementing the Inter-I. And the Inter-I is an assessment tool used in other states that an individual will have this assessment, and then it will determine the level of services that person qualifies for. And what that will do is it will allow for, we are hoping it will allow for a lot more flexibility, including the participant-directed services that Michael mentioned, where somebody might get a budget and they can go out and pay for somebody to provide services to them, or maybe pay for transportation or some other need that they have that will make them help them be more independent. But until we have a way of establishing budgets, it's trickier to do. Also, the Inter-I will allow for more levels of care. And so if somebody has very, very intense needs, and you'll hear me reference this, we need to really prioritize people who need human support. And we'll, hopefully the Inter-I will help us recognize, okay, this person has a high level of human support need, or maybe this person could, with multiple different supports like technology and transportation and housing, or maybe even, I've been hearing Emily Ricci from the Department of Health lately talk about food as medicine, so maybe food security. I mean, maybe there's other things that we can use our resources for to help somebody live more independently. Another thing I wanted to touch on, I know this is just going through my list really quickly, but this is to give you kind of grounding before the conversation. Host homes. You may have heard about this. This is legislation that passed this past session. It really was pushed by Governor Dunleavy based on a family that he knew personally when he took office. And it's a new service type. And the idea is that a person or a family could have someone living in their home, host them in their home, someone who needs some care, maybe an elder in a community. And it is a licensed setting to ensure safety, but it's very simple licensing. It makes the service very accessible, and it's a different way of providing support. And I included this partly because it's kind of fast tracked. It's gonna come online probably July 1st, but it's just an example of if we're not gonna have enough typical traditional services to provide people support. Like we won't have maybe an agency that, I mean, there will be agencies, but they might not have workers that can meet all the different needs. We need to start creating a menu of many, many different ways to meet people's needs. And I think host homes is just one example of that, of the direction we're going to go in. I also wanted to talk about Health Tie. I know Health Tie and MapHabit are going to be doing a presentation tomorrow. Health Tie it's a nonprofit that really is a bridge between healthcare or disability service providers and technology. Here is the thing about technology. I know some people individually say, I'm not a tech person. I really don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Well, you can imagine healthcare organizations or nonprofits that are struggling madly to meet people's needs every day are also going to be like, we can't really implement technology at this point in time. This is really hard to do, and even the state of Alaska. And so Health Tie is really becoming, building up expertise in how to support that implementation of technology and test out some things. Right now, there's a pilot project going on that's very exciting, and you should come to the summit tomorrow and hear more about MapHabit. I'll just leave it at that. And MapHabit it's a paid Medicaid waiver service in like 12 states now. So I wanted to just summarize, these are the things in Alaska right now. And I mean, I'm sure there's other things going on, but on my radar, this is the list. So now you're familiar with some of these things, and I just wanted to kind of pull it all together in this next slide. So if you bring all these things together, when we think about we don't have enough workers, how are we addressing it? We're really working on building a professional direct support workforce so that it's recognized, we can recruit people into it because they say, wow, that's a profession that I wanna become a DSP. The training is more consistent, so the care becomes more consistent. There's a career path because somebody could work through the certification levels. Eventually, what we'd love to see happen is that there's an incentive through the Medicaid waiver rate that an organization might get paid a higher rate if they support their employees becoming certified. It's never going to be mandated. Certification will never be mandated. Alaska is a very varied state, and there are going to be people who are providing direct care who aren't necessarily interested in that more formal professional path. But there are people who want a more formal professional path. It reminds me, I'm a social worker, and social workers went through this 30 years ago to get recognized and create licensing and certification so that they could be paid a living wage and have a professional identity. So we think it's going to help with recruitment and retention. Plus, we want to increase the independence of people with disabilities, reduce the number of people relying on human support, empower peer support, really think about how can we help people be less reliant so that the people who really need that paid support can access it. Increase rates to pay for quality. That's kind of speaks for itself. And then we need to add flexibility, technology, different service options like host homes. We need to really think about how to make that happen in our system. And even though we do all of this, we still, remember, we need over 1 million new workers by 2030. We still are going to need to be creative. Here are some of the things I think about. I keep saying this, but I really do think we prioritize the needs of people who need human care. So there might be people getting services today who 5 years from now, might not be, because we actually have transportation that's accessible and available when people need it. Because people are employed in jobs and their coworkers provide them the support they need to be employed. Because we have technology and smart homes that help people get their needs met. So we have fewer people receiving services because we can't support them. We build intentional communities with mutual support systems. There's an intentional community being planned right now with some families, and I know some of them may be in the room, but can we create more of these communities where the people who live there help each other out? I think supportive roommates or trading housing for assistance. My future plan is to build a little apartment onto my house so that my live-in caregiver can live there and help me out when I'm older. And not everybody has those resources, but I think if people do have resources, how can we think creatively around using housing as a resource? And what about employing people with disabilities as DSPs or companions? I know quite a few people with intellectual disabilities who would be amazing companions for an older Alaskan. Or I know there was a movie, it was a few years back that the Governor's Council shared with people at a meeting. And it was about these two women who lived together. And one had physical disability, cerebral palsy, and the other one had Down syndrome. And they lived together for like 25 years. And the woman with Down syndrome helped the woman with physical disabilities get in and out of bed and get around and take care of her daily needs. And the other woman helped with all the budgeting and planning and appointment keeping. And I always think about that mutual support and independence that they helped each other create. So I think these kinds of creative ideas are what we need to be thinking about. So what else? What else can we think about? Where are we going? And that brings me to the end of my presentation. And I'm going to turn it over to my partner in the room, Karen. So thank you.
You look too fabulous to not be on camera.
And I still have no beignets for you.
Hello. All right, thank you, everyone. My name is Karen Brunello. I'm a care coordinator with Care In Coordination. I'm going to be facilitating the workforce discussion. I'm going to do a quick introduction of our panelists and then give them a couple minutes to talk about their thoughts on what Kim had to say. And then I've got a few questions for them myself. I'm going to borrow Rose's bio here. So my fabulous friend Rose was born in Anchorage, but raised in Cordova. Her birthday is June 7th, if anybody wanted to know. She graduated from Cordova Junior High and Senior High. And what do you love spending time doing?
I like hanging out with my friends there and my mom and with friends.
Very cool. Thank you, Rose. And I'm going to give you your paper so you're prepared for your next question. And next to Rose, we have Denise Shelton. She is a care coordinator that's been working in the care coordination field for over 23 years, specifically focusing on elder care. She is the administrator of her own agency, Aurora Specialized Services. She has a master's degree in community rehabilitation management from UAA, an undergraduate degree in rehabilitation from Seattle University, and she is a third-generation Alaska, serving both the Anchorage and Mat-Su areas. And next to her, we have Terry, is on the other page. So Terry began her life adventure in Colorado. She 6 months shy of being a lifelong Alaskan. She grew up in Southeast, South Central, and Fairbanks, Alaska, eventually settling in Anchorage. After a long career in printing and publishing, life brought changes and she went back to school. She's now with Cindy and Vix. She started in the day program, then added some weekend relief. When Cindy and Vix opened the new ALH, she took on the role of resident manager, and for the last 8 years has lived with two amazingly gifted women. Together they cook, work out, and laugh a lot. There might be some singing along with that. She enjoys helping both make healthy decisions and living life to its fullest. And next to Terry, we have the amazing Ariana J. She's a multifaceted entrepreneur, deeply committed to creating a social impact. She has co-founded Alaska Premier Assisted Living here in Anchorage, where she serves as the program administrator. With years of experience, including running a therapeutic group home and collaborating with agencies across Alaska, she brings hands-on expertise to elevate the lives of people with disabilities. As an Alaskan native and a dedicated mother of 3, her mission is deeply personal. Her passion for community well-being doesn't stop there. She is also the force behind 7-Figure Impact, a groundbreaking online education company that equips aspiring and current providers to launch and scale licensed assisted living homes, group homes, and community hab businesses. Students of her startup provider program rave about the actionable insights and community of support that she provides, whether she is working in her home state or guiding entrepreneurs across the nation. She is dedicated, empowered, and does impact. Her work is not just her career, it's her calling, and her mission is extended that calling to as many people as possible. So thank you guys all for being here. I want to give you each the opportunity to share any thoughts that you may have had from all of the great information that Kim had shared before we jump into our questions. So does anybody have thoughts they want to share to start us off?
You guys are going to make me go first, right? So I really think something that I think about a lot is the certification program with DSPs. I think it's something that's that we need to recognize. So I'm glad that that's being rolled out. We did something similar before I even knew of anything like this, of how do we kind of segment the levels of a DSP? And I'm glad to know, like, that's actually that's happening with a certification program, a national certification program, where they can say, hey, look, you know what I mean? Because I don't think that across the nation or nationally that we recognize the different levels of DSPs, right? Some people can do certain things, some people can't, right? And I think it's important that we recognize the different levels.
Since I'm wearing the shirt, yes. All right, and actually I will touch on, so I am one of the steering committee members with the AADSP. As Kim mentioned in the presentation, we've been together a little over 5 years. I like to think of us right now as a small but extremely mighty group. It is a talented group of DSPs that we came together with the common thread of what a DSP does is important. It is more than just hanging out for an hour or two and making somebody laugh. It is impacting their lives. The certification program, which I'm also going through in my spare time, ties into that. It gives the DSPs in the program confidence that we have skills, we know things that we don't always realize, that how deep the talents go. Our first summit is going to be next week. We've got 50 folk from around the state coming. Yeah, it is pretty exciting for the first ever. And our hope on that is to bring DSPs together, letting them know, even in the small town of Bethel, you're not alone. You have support, you have a team. And we encourage any and all DSPs, if you're here today or Zooming, absolutely come check out the group and be part of the voice.
I come from this field for 23 years, working directly with clients, and over COVID, we've just watched that DSP world just diminish. We watched agencies shuts their doors. We've lost PCS agencies, personal care attendant agencies, because they don't have workers. We've, watched just people. I've got 3 now that have moved to assisted living that couldn't find a worker and needed one. So kind of the very beginning, it was talked about aging in place, and that should be our ultimate goal for everyone. What can we do to keep you in your home the longest? So if that's technology, if that's different situations with a roommate or somebody in the nursing program who's, you know, gone during the day, but they're at least at night for you. But I just think we need to put our creative hats on as service providers to look at all those options. I really appreciate everything Kim is doing. Before she was the director here, which just happened, you know, like a year ago or so, year and a half, she worked with the Dementia Collaborative. And that's kind of my world for 23 years. I do have folks I work with developmental disabilities, but that's, you know, the elders have been my focus, and just watching the silver tsunami and as folks age, we're offering less and less, not more and more, you know, as we watch regulations change and cut down services. So I just really think that the DSP issue is huge in our world, and that's probably the biggest concern I have for the future of all our services.
Well, and that ties right into Rose's first question. You ready? All right, Miss Rose, as somebody who benefits from the services that we provide, can you tell us a little bit about what you need and want from your staff and your services?
Um, I'm nervous, but
I'm nervous too. It's okay.
I don't, uh, um, wait, eh,
Would you prefer if I read the things that you wrote?
yeah.
Okay, so this is Rose's words. I'm going to help her out really quick. So people who have a disability, just like me, need to learn to be independent and be responsible for every step. So my group home where I live, they make my life easier. They are teaching me to be independent, helping me to achieve my goals in life by teaching me how to advocate for myself. And they make me happy and better and stronger. I know in the future, I will achieve my goals by having my own place and making my own decisions in life. It's important to know that we have the right to make a decision in our own life and learn mistakes. Sometimes we're not perfect, even though we have disability. For staff that wanted to learn to be a caregiver or in this community, we should give them a chance and not judge them. Whatever their skin color or nationality might be, let's give them a chance to learn. Every staff, and we need to be patient, just like we do. We are patient, and I work hard to achieve our goals. Staff need to learn to be patient, caring, and understanding. And give the service that they need. Does that sound right?
Can the service that we need.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Rose.
Welcome.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Um, yeah, we just stick up for yourself and speak out and say what you want. Like having eyes in your water or um uh, or 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 other things like that.
Very, very cool. And I want to add a little bit too, just because Rose always impresses me all the time. And I know that she has come so far in the time that I have known her. And
Yeah.
she is such a fierce advocate and she steps outside the box and she does scary things. Like, you know, some of the things that Rose has done since she's moved into her new group home. She's got a couple new tattoos. She goes out, she has fun, things that she wasn't able to do before. She inspired me to get my first tattoo recently. So I just want to say thank you for that, Rose, because your braveness is spreading to everyone around you, I swear. You're pretty awesome.
Well, g- I got my first tattoo when I moved here to Anchorage.
I love that you're able to make those decisions for yourself and you're inspiring everyone around you.
And you used to work at the Arc of Anchorage.
Yep, that's where we met, huh? And if you haven't, if you recognize Rose, you might recognize her from being one of our guest speakers at the Peer Power Conference, being able to talk about her experiences with maybe not as great group homes and how amazing your current group home is and how supportive they are. And so your story is definitely spreading. And I just want to make sure everybody knows her advocacy and time speaking her story is definitely growing and other people are being inspired by you. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to Rose's question? So what individuals who are receiving services currently need and want? Anybody have any thoughts they want to add to that before we move on to the next question?
You go. Yeah. So no, and actually to add on to Rose's fabulous info on that, it kind of ties back in with some of what Kim talked about with being creative. I mean, we all know the DSP shortage is beyond redonkulous. And this is the time to be creative so that individuals like Rose, who already does a fabulous job advocating for herself, that she can teach others. And we have a workforce that she can interview and she can choose the DSP of her choice to best support her in the manner that she wants. Not where we currently are of, well, we have 9 people that need help and 2 individuals available. It's a disservice to individuals who want to lead their life and control their life.
And Terry, my next question is for you. So I'm going to go bounce right back to you. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the success stories that you've experienced when it comes to staffing?
I guess I'll talk more. Yeah. So I will start by saying that in spite of the workforce shortage, I am incredibly lucky. As noted, I'm a residential manager. I have been living with 2 individuals that experienced disabilities for 8+ years now. I have steady weekend staff, 1 individual who has been with me the entire 8+ years, and the others that have been 2 years and beyond. So we have a stable group. We worked through how to function as a team and how to best support. But you know, my latest success story, I can truly say is like many of us, as we add years to our driver's license, we add pounds to that other number. And, and much like everyone, we all struggle with weight and making good choices and healthy decisions. The team came together. We worked with the individuals that we're supporting on a weight release and a healthy living program. And it was kind of a struggle in the beginning for those that never grew up learning how to count calories or think like a nutritionist, and thinking whole foods, clean foods, not a drive-through. So not only do I have two individuals who are far healthier than they have been in their entire life, I have an individual who lived in the home for several years that moved out a couple of years ago. They had some major heart surgery as an infant that has resulted in biannual cardiac testing for certain things based on that surgery. They had their visits about a couple of months ago, and for the first time in that individual's life of 30+ years, their heart pressure was normal, which is almost unheard of. But it's because they embraced the lifestyle, the team embraced supporting, and there is no evening that starts without a salad. There's no evening that starts without looking at good food, talking about it. I have team members now who are doing the same things for themselves in their personal life. So not only do we support our individuals, they're supporting themselves. We're leading by examples. And that happens because we've been together, and it has just made it work. We don't have the churn factor where someone coming in and saying, geez, that's not enough calories. Nobody can live on that. Well, you can, and you can thrive on it if you're not going through the drive-through. So that, I would say, would be my success, is a fabulous team that they live what they model.
Any additional comments before we move on to the next question? So the actual initial question was staffing success stories, or just overall success stories with staffing.
Yeah, I can speak to it. Why not? So again, like meeting staff where they're at, and our resident manager, who's our current resident manager now, when she first started with us, she didn't have the tools to be a resident manager, right? She didn't have that. And it could have been very easy for us to just put her in a box and set her over there, like she doesn't have what it takes. But instead, we carved out a plan. First, we had to see what she wanted, if she was cut out for this, if this was something that she actually wanted for her future, for her career. And then we paved this path for her, and we had benchmarks and check-ins and all of these things. And now, like when we look back like 3 years ago, even she's like, I don't even know who that person was, right? Because we didn't just put her in a box, and she didn't put herself in a box. And I think there's so much progress that can be made if we give our staff a chance, right? If we give them a chance to have a career, right? And to actually grow in a position in the agency. What does that do for us as an agency? That dampens the turnover, right? That dampens all of those things. And I remember one of the trainings that I was in when I was a therapeutic foster parent, they had us all stand in this circle, and we all had the yarn, right? So it was a big circle, we all had yarn, and there was one person in the middle, and they held all the yarn together, and they went through and they cut these strings, right? This yarn. And what that symbolized and represented was, individuals, right? Every time that's broken and somebody else comes back in or replaces them, they have to rebuild all of that rapport that was initially there. So how, and I'm not trying to say like turnover can't happen or turnover shouldn't happen. I think it's normal, it's part of things. But how can we as providers like powerfully and positively impact our staff so that they are able to provide the best care possible? So that's that.
All right, and next we're going to go to Denise, and we're going to talk a little bit about the current service gaps and where are the areas that we need to improve.
So thinking about this question, I hate to say it, but it really doesn't start at our level. When I look at the 23 years I've been in this field, I look at the segmentation of services to such a defined degree that people coming into your home, often family members have to sign 3-4 timesheets, or accent, or 3 or 4 services starting and stopping. I know we have the EVV now, so it's a little bit different, which is actually hard for families who live in their own home and provide that care. But when you have someone who say is got dementia and they one day will let you give them a shower, the next day they don't want anything to do with you. The family member needs somebody to come into the home and provide a service. But sometimes those services are very specific. I'm your chore worker today. I'm your PCA today. I'm your respite worker today. And I think that when we talk about person-centered, it's not super person-centered to tell somebody, here's all the boxes, now pick the box you're going to fit into. That's already established. And I know that, I mean, I'm singing to a choir here because I'm sure all of us have thought about this or dealt with it. But the more we look at the services, the more we look at these real segmented pieces that people can do. You know, someone with an intellectual disability cannot even leave their house 2 hours a day. 7 days a week when you're capped at 12 hours of day hab. But yet they might get a ton of supported living, which they'd rather have the day hab be more than the supported living. And I don't know that those rates are that much different. So it's just kind of these weird oddities that we have in the system. So I'm kind of a big proponent in kind of things like companionship services, which is a currently approved CMS service, which can be a big bucket where it can be anything that person needs, right? And we could use it very creatively, but that was kind of introduced at a time when the budget and the Medicaid budgets were going through issues, and there was no way we were going to get a new service approved. And we're not out of that situation. We're constantly dealing with that. But if we're really looking at providing services to people, we need to be able to provide what they need. I just had a family I worked really hard with. They had to get on Medicaid and do a Miller's Trust and, just a lot of money stuff. Finally got on and we sat down to do the plan of care, and she goes, okay. She goes to adult day 5 days a week, full time. I drop her off on my way to work. I pick her up on my way home. All I need is you to get me somebody 3 days a week to stay the night with her in our home, so I can get 3 nights a week of sleep out of my 5 that I work. And I look at her and I go, we don't have a service for that. She was floored. She's like, you're kidding me. Like, this is literally all I need. She ended up putting her mom in assisted living. Of course, this was right at COVID. And then she couldn't go visit her mom. She's waving at her through the window and mom's crying. I mean, it was like the most horrific situation I could ever put a family through. I was just mortified every time I talked with her because she was so unhappy that she had to put her mom in a home. Then she actually took her mom out of the home, and that was a whole nother thing. Cashed out all her retirement to pay for staff 24 hours a day and, cared for her in her home because that was the only option she had. So I'm just, I've never met anybody who said, I can't wait till I get dementia or ill enough to go to assisted living. It's just not the place where we want to go. It just isn't. And if we can support people in their home, we've got to figure that out. So I see that as a gap. I see the way PCA is right now. I mean, I get really nervous about it because some of my clients get like 2 hours a day, and then this worker then has to go to all these different homes to get their, money to pay rent, right? So they've got 4 different people they're working for or trying to fit it all in. And then my client's high risk, they're on the waiver. So they're going to the hospital, and okay, now they're in the hospital week. Well, they're at potential every time that happens of losing that worker who can't fill in for somebody else during that week. And they're only, these agencies are only kept alive by the wages that the workers work. So if you don't have workers and then they're not able to work, then the agency isn't bringing the money in, and they've got, there's no other way that a PC agency can really make money unless they're privately paying because they've got overhead and things like that. So that scenario makes me nervous. I like the whole idea of the rate looking at, and I like the idea of the certification because those two are going to elevate the service, and people maybe going out of high school who've cared for family members or whatever, like that could be my career, right? They could look at it like a career and maybe move up and end up running an assisted living home or something, like that, or an agency or whatever. So that's a real positive to me. And it really is something that we need to look at. I was trying to think, I thought I had one more thing about this I wanted to say. Of course, I left my notes in my bag, so that's not super helpful. I think that was my main point I wanted to make with that.
Anybody else have additional thoughts before we go to our next question? All right, Miss Rose.
Well, I think we should get more hours for day, not just 12 hours.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh. You go, girl. What?
'Cause it's not fair that we just have to go out for 2 hours and that it we should support the capital like they did it in the movie Crip Camp.
Did everybody catch that? So Miss Rose thinks we should all storm the Capitol like they did in the movie Crip Camp.
So that brought me to my thought. My thought was, I think a long time ago, we had like these block grants. And I just think that when you identify someone who has needs and you've identified it through an assessment, that they should get the money to do whatever they want. And if they didn't want any supported living and they didn't want any habilitated services, but they wanted to go out in the community, they wanted to do stuff and be somewhere, that they just get to do it. I think we habilitate people to the nth degree. I'm a care coordinator. I write goals and objectives, and I guarantee you most of the stuff I write for folks, they're not super excited about it. Most of it, is kind of sometimes behavioral connected and other times just, well, they've got to learn to do their laundry or make their bed or whatever no, they don't. I got teenagers. I work real hard on that. I could do all the tasks and analysis you want. They don't want to do it. So advocating in kind of the big picture. I've got family members who care for their loved ones. I've got group homes that care for loved ones. And they all just want to do stuff. And we, in order to get the money to do it, have to jump a hoop to do it. And the hoop is writing goals and objectives for it. So I just feel like they just want to live their life. Can we just live their life? And then maybe the care coordinator oversees ensuring that they're getting the good care that they need and all their needs are being met and in whatever criteria or level that the state wants to look at. So the money isn't like being squandered on something that's not actual care and things like that. But I feel like we've nickeled and dimed the systems to the nth degree, that to the point where someone can't even go out 2 hours a day because the wage is so high that the state has had to curb the service down to 12 hours just to make it affordable because the budgets are being blown up. And it just maybe you don't need a habilitative staff. Maybe that staff doesn't need to, the rate doesn't need to be that high for all of that. It can be more at a PCA level because they're just going out to a movie or something like that. So just some options and services that don't pigeonhole you in a box, right? Yeah. I'm with you, girl.
I can tell you got something to say.
Just a little bit. So, it kind of got me thinking that I've seen so many different states, rate sheets, manuals, all kinds of things. And as we know, this program is a Fed-funded program, right? CMS, the Fed pays us, right? And it's state governed at the end of the day. So I have seen a variety of different service structures all over the nation, right? One that comes to mind is Florida. And the way Florida kind of has their rates and everything set out is that there's an accumulative amount of hours that you can even combine services. So you have, say, I think the number was like 56 hours per week, right? And it was a combination of different services. So what does that do? That empowers the individual to say, hey, this is what I need, obviously based off their assessment and other things, of course, but it gives them the power to be the decision maker of what they actually need. And we can pick a little bit of supported employment if that's something we want to do. We can pick extra day hab or more hours to day hab if that's what we need. We can pick a little bit more of supported living if that's what the need is, right? So let's not be under this, I don't know, illusion that it's only this way, because they're doing it different across the nation. And Alaska really has to step up and make some changes because there's a blueprint already done. We just have to go out and look, take the time to research, right? And then implement and see what's going to work for our state and for the individuals we serve.
And I'm going to pass it right back to you because you have our last question of the day. So plans or goals for future staffing options, and where do we go from here?
Look, I'm a little dangerous with a notepad. So I think this is a loaded question. And I think that if I had the magic words or a magic wand, I think it would not only fix staffing issues and shortages in our industry, but it would fix it in all industries, right? Because we're all feeling the staffing shortages. And COVID, Rona, I can't be canceled for COVID anymore, call it Rona, really hurt a lot of agencies. And it also hurt a lot of individuals, and it hurt other staff who were actually trying to come here, show up, and really do their job, right? It put an immense amount of pressure on them to pull extra shifts and to do other things because, you know, some people just rather just stay home and collect, what was it, $4,000 a month? Let me not go there. Let me stay on track, right? So when we talk about staffing shortages and where things are going to go in the workplace, I think it boils down to a couple of different things that are not the magic wand, of course, but they kind of bridge the gap, as Kim was saying earlier. Now, out of the three things, the first thing is compensation. Let's talk about money. People don't like to talk about money a lot, and I like to talk about money. Money makes the world go round, right, for everybody. And so when it comes to compensation, yes, we need to look at the rate so we can pay our staff more for the service, right? But then there's also this thing of making that tiered effect in our workplaces, okay? What do I mean by that? We can't be compensating a stellar employee the same way we're compensating. Now, you guys, I'm very kind of blunt with what I say, so just be prepared. Have y'all heard of the term a warm body? Okay. We can't be paying a top tier staff the same as a warm body. Okay. We don't even, I will admit, I had 2 warm bodies in the middle of COVID and I let them go. But guess what? The individuals who are coming in and doing the work, I needed to make sure that I was going to pay them more. How do we do that after all of these other incentives ended, right? Because we were given incentives to be able to give our staff bonuses. We keep those going. Now, this is going to be tailored to your agency and how much you make and all of that stuff. And, you know, it's going to be individualized, but I do think having a STEP program, a certification program, and some bonus initiatives based off of the care that they're providing and doing the different data points in a timely manner. Like, I think that individuals, as far as staff, will always perform better, feel more valued when there is some type of incentive, right? So that was my first thing. Let me get this phone unlocked for my second thing. Hold on. I have the notepad and then it disappeared, right? Okay, so the second thing is company culture. I have interviewed so many people where when I talk about energetic alignment, they're like, huh, that's part of the interview? Well, yeah, it is. And I think that company culture in itself is something to where people have to feel bought in to the vibe and the environment that they're actually going to be required to show up to work to. There are too many jobs available on the market for somebody to come to work for me or for another agency, if they're not going to be valued and they're going to be treated like crap, right? Nobody wants to be treated like another number. And so I think that making sure that there's a buy-in to the mission, the values of the company, like re-engaging people and letting them know that them showing up is actually, you know, how do I say it? They are being impactful. There I go with the word impact. Impactful with their work, right? And that they're actually valued and that we actually as management and leaders care about them, right? Because you can go to Jersey Mike's right now and get a job for $23 an hour, right? You can. So if somebody wants to make it solely about the money, they're going to go find other work. And so if we can bring it back to the mission and the why of why we're actually showing up, why are we doing the work? I believe that that's going to draw in the right people who actually want to serve and do the work. And as Rose was saying, like to help and to actually provide good care and good service, right? So like we have to have staff that has that buy-in to be able to do so. And I believe if they're bought into the mission and the values that the company holds, I think we're going to attract more people that are going to be in it for the long haul and that want to actually do the certification program, right? And who actually want to ascend in the company. But if we don't have that, if there's no deep rooted attachment, then they can literally go somewhere else and get a job for the same amount of pay that, you know, they can make in this field. And so I think that purpose is everything. I have one more thing on this. So the last thing kind of ties into what Kim was saying and the certification piece again is the mentorship, right? Even before there was a certification program, how many agencies have you guys worked for or know of that really pours into their staff and their training and their career path, besides saying, hey, you have 12 hours of training that you need to meet this year and go to Relias or go to Open Future Learning and send me your certificate, right? Is that familiar? That's familiar, right? That's what the norm is. So how can we go outside of the norm? How can we sit down with people, our staff, even at the interview process and say, hey, look, tell me what your vision is. Tell me what you want to do. And at their 60 or 90 day kind of check-in, which a lot of agencies don't have, they don't have these check-ins with their staff. Like, what do you like? What do you dislike? What can we do better? You know, what do you feel like you're excelling at? We have a self-scoring what is it, Andre? We have a self-scoring checklist, basically. Yeah, but it goes out every day. It goes out every day that our team has to answer every day, and they send it to us in teams. And it's literally self-scoring about how they felt they did today. Do they feel like they met the needs of the individual that they serve? What do they really want management to know? And the scoring, like the self-scoring is like on a 1 to 10. And it's not us coming in and saying, hey, you should do a better job of this or that, right? It's them telling us. And then we also have a section in there of anything that they may need support with, whether it's in work or outside of work, right? I think that there's this line in the sand between, hey, this is personal, that's your personal life, and this is work life. Leave it at the door. And that's fine. I can understand that's being professional, but people want to feel cared about. And it's okay to ask your staff how they're doing outside of work. It's okay to ask them, hey, are you getting any self-care? Or, you know, I know you're coming into your weekend. Do you have anything that you have planned for self-care, right? There are so many people in this industry, providers, owners, DSPs, resident managers that have significant mental health issues and challenges, and they're providing care and neglecting themselves in the midst. Did I just go there? I just went there. I am. So that's a huge issue. Let's talk about that, right? So when we talk about our workforce and bringing it back, let's talk about healing the workforce, right? Let's talk about giving a damn about the workforce. So when the workforce comes in and they're actually providing the care, that they're providing premier care in the way that they're doing it and supporting the individuals in the way that they want to live. Because if you don't, they're just going to sit there and they may have potential, but they'll become a warm body. And who wants to be cared for by a warm body? I know I don't. You want to.
And that's what I'm saying. And, or they'll use the client as the therapist. I have so many clients who tell me, oh my God, please, she can't come back. I feel so sorry for her life and all the horrible things that happen. I mean, they are not going to their supervisor and saying, look, I'm going through this struggle. I need to deal with this. They're using the people that they're cleaning the home for, the elders, and I see it all the time.
It's very, very true. And when you can tap in and you're in sync with your crew and your team, whether you have a resident manager who's managing a house and they're familiar with the staff that come in that house, or you have a director who has staff under them, right? There needs to be some type of check-in, right? Because when I see, we call them end-of-day reports. And so when they send in their end of day, I'm checking them or Dre's checking them. And if I know that somebody's usually at an 8, 9, or 10, and then I see a 7 or a 6, and I see that for a couple days in a row, I'm checking in with them. Why? Because there's usually something going on. And I always tap into my intuition too, but there's always something going on. And we recently had this happen, and there really was something significantly going on with this person's life. And they felt comfortable enough to put that in their end of day. Why? Because they know I actually care. And you can retain staff by doing that. So that's.
I just want to say I am so thankful for the planning committee that let me pick this panel, because these are the best of the best up here. There's so much expertise, knowledge, passion, skill on this panel that I'm so excited. I thank all of y'all for being here. I know we are wrapping up and we are about to the end of our day, but I just wanted to see if there are any comments from the crowd really quickly for our panelists, just because I want to take advantage of all of this expertise and knowledge up here. Oh, and look, we got the care coordinator speaking in the room.
Can you hear me? I'm excited because I want to know what the end of the care form looks like, and if a sample to take a look at, to email it to me. I'm going back with some suggestions to my team, so I love it.
And I saw one more hand really quick, and then they're going to cut me off. I know it.
Good job, everybody, and Kim, especially Chica. Good job talking about people. We need to have both people and anchors and siblings and home and children and kids can.
Last chance for last minute. Oh, we got Loretta. Oh, I always love to hear what she has to say.
Thank you so much for being here as the panel. But my question is to the woman who was on the screen. I think she hit the nail on the head when she said that people with ID should be able to live as independent as they can. And don't tell me they can't, because I own my own home. But everyone is like me. We all have different paces of learning. But too many times I see people in group homes who shouldn't be in group homes. They should be out independently, work full-time jobs, but then they had to come back to a group home and they had to be in bed at 10 o'clock. Why can't we have people work towards independence? Get out, get some skills, have a step home. Start in that home for 6 months, and they start working on skills to working towards getting their own place or with a peer. And yes, you talked about the two ladies. I had two friends. One used a wheelchair. She was intellectually bright. The other one used her hands and her legs. So she was the strength, and the one in the chair was the intelligence. And you put two people together like that, you have one whole person. So don't tell me that we can't achieve. We can, if done right. And that would cure a lot of this, the staff problems that goes on in group homes. Need to let people be as independent as possible. Thank you.
All right, well, I just want to say thank you one more time to our amazing panelists. I appreciate you all being here. I know you're all very, very, very busy in your professional lives, and ooh, I can't get too close. And carving out time to be here is very, very much appreciated. So thank you.
All right, let's give one more big round of applause for that amazing roundtable discussion. Before we close out today, we have a guest here. We have Tori Gingas from the Assistive Technologies of Alaska. She presented virtually last year during the summit, and she had some additional updates that she wants to provide. So I just wanted to give her a few minutes before we close out with our announcements before tomorrow. Here you go, Tori.
Thanks, Joanna. And what a tough act to follow. Thank you all so much for providing your insights there. When I saw the announcement for this year's summit and I saw that assistive technology was one of the main topics, I really wanted to just come and talk with you all about a resource center, Assistive Technology of Alaska, that is available for all Alaskans to learn about, access, acquire, and train with assistive technology. So for those of you who may not be familiar with what assistive technology is, it's any type of device, tool, item, software, or strategy that can help someone be more independent at school, work, or in their day-to-day life. At ATLA, we do free demonstrations of equipment. So we do a consultation with individuals to help determine what type of options they have available. Sometimes the most daunting part about assistive technology is really just being educated about everything that's out there and then filtering down to the right option for you. We do short-term loans of equipment as well. So individuals can then also take items home, try them out for a couple weeks before determining if they want to pursue funding or applying for one of our programs so that they can acquire the equipment at no cost. So those programs look like Techability, which I did speak about at the last conference. That is, there's about 200 items included in that program, and it's for Alaskans who are mental health trust beneficiaries. So many of the individuals that you work with would qualify for this program. It has tools to help with vision loss, hearing loss, daily living activities, being alerted of their front door opening or being able to alert their caregiver if they have a need, different things like daily living clocks that are large and big and say the date and time across them, talking clocks, also things for recreation and things for like accessing your email, tablets, different things like that. So lots of options included in that program. There's also Alaska Relay, which provides free distance communication equipment for Alaskans who are deaf, hard of hearing, or speech disabled. And that program also includes iPads, and it will complete the iPad with whatever application is needed for the individual to access that distance communication. So that could be speech generating applications or things like video relay services. We also have Alaska Can Connect, which is for people who have significant vision and hearing loss. And that is also a telecommunications-based program, so distance communication equipment. And then we have a reutilization program. So items that are no longer available on the market that may be discontinued or have been donated to us, we're able to put into our reutilization program and then give out to individuals for free. Lots of equipment in that program sitting on shelves, just waiting for the person to come along who could benefit from it. So please, I welcome you all to give us a call or visit our website, atlaak.org, to get on our wait list so that a specialist can perform that free consultation, let you know what's going on, and talk to you about what your different options are. We are a nonprofit, and so any Alaskan of any age with any need is welcome to come by and have a tour of our demonstration rooms, set up a time to meet with a specialist. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. And if you'd like, we do have some flyers here today, but of course, again, atlaak.org is our website. Yes?
And then sorry, my name is Lucy and I work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Anchorage. And I have a person who is deaf, half blind. And so we have an equipment usually for him. We have readers that would help him read. And then we also have Zoom that does for his kind of work.
Yeah, actually, I just spoke at the Anchorage Assembly meeting last night to recognize October as Disability Employment Awareness Month. And we discussed how imperative it is to have people with disabilities in all careers, and that it's vital for them to have accessibility and assistive technology so that they can keep, and stay in their desired positions. Were there any other questions before I pass it on to Joanna for closing remarks? All right. Thank you so much, Joanna. I'm actually going to pass the other mic to Ricky, one of our coalition members who's going to do some notes and closing remarks today. Take it away, Ricky.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you guys all for joining us today. We had a wonderful conference today, and we will continue tomorrow to have more great presenters. As you leave, if you do not want to take your name tag with you, I know they're very fancy and lovely and everybody covets them. If you would like to, you can please return them back to Lisa at the back, and she will then give you a certificate of attendance for today. And you will have a certificate of attendance for tomorrow as well. So wash, rinse, repeat tomorrow. And that will be, that's all for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed all of the sessions today. I just wanted to thank our presenters one more time, Jim McCall, Anthony Patarini, our amazing elder panel, Sheila Shin, Nyla Morgan, Nona Safra, Loretta Claiborne, Charlotte and Mike Mulcahy, Cara and Heather, who presented on the waiver process, Kim Champney, and our amazing workforce roundtable, Terry, Ariana, Denise, and Rose. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tori, for coming in. We will kick it off tomorrow with supported decision-making with Ann Applegate. Michelle Giroux, one of our coalition members, will be facilitating the action panel on aging and disabilities. And then we will have a presentation from Map Habit and Help Tie Alaska. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to all of our vendors upstairs on the track for taking time of your day to be here as well. And we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.
But we can